dance and physical theatre maker Gregory Maqoma returns to a stage with the internationally acclaimed piece Cion, Requiem of Ravel's Boléro. It's in its 7th year. The play is inspired by Zakes ways of crying and its sequel Cion, and the main character, who is a mourner. Carried by the transformative singing of an African choir, dynamic paces of a body, storytelling and intense emotiveness, the play relays a story for hope against the darkness. But let's take a look at the trailer.
Wena kufa uzalwa ngubani wena kufa unyogo nguba udosi lwakho uvela kuphi wena kufa uzalwa nguba udosi lwakho uvela kuphi wena kufa uzalwa nguba unyogo 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 nguba.
Well, we are now joined by theatre maker, choreographer and dancer. The one and only legendary Gregory Maqoma is joining us via Zoom. And also here in studio, we are joined by lead dancer in Cion, Rosaline Wilkins. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. A good morning to you, Rosaline and Gregory.
Good morning, and thank you for having us.
Yeah, very exciting, Gregory. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to let you have the first bite, actually, right, as the choreographer. I'm going to let you have the first bite, Gregory, because it's for me, the fact that you've traveled internationally with this story, right, in this show, and you're bringing it back home. But I want to go to its genesis, if you will, Zakes, ways of crying. I think if we start there, almost everyone can resonate with where we're going with the story, right, Gregory?
Absolutely. I mean, I think Zakes is such a genius in terms of his writing. And I mean, he's able to depict our lives so beautifully, and the images that he was able to portray in his books, which inspired his work, Ways of Dying, as well as Cion, and zooming into the character of Doloki, who is a professional mourner, allowed us to really find resonance in terms of what is going on in our country, basically globally in the world, of death surrounding us, and we feel like we've been professional mourners. Yeah. I mean, just watching the news this morning of the family in the Eastern Cape that has to bury their loved ones, it is so heartbreaking, and I think we need these moments to pause.
Yeah, and unfortunately, here's the reality: is we see these mass funerals, and unfortunately, then we also liken it to one that took place previously. And then you've got to be able to tell that story. But talk to me about, Rosaline, I'm going to let you take this one now, because it's quite something to take it from the storytelling of Zakes ways of dying, and then, Cion, and what you guys have called Requiem of Ravel's Boléro. Explain that for us. Boléro, yes.
Boléro, yeah. Yes. So I think Greg and Nhlanhla Mahlangu, the composer, I think they were very smart in taking a piece of work, a song that is worldwide, that is played almost 100 times in the world, and brought it to South Africa, brought it home, and also made it resonate with what we're going through as Africans, and bringing the Africanism within that piece of work, because it's a classical piece of work that is played on a daily, everywhere in the world. And they then transform that into something that we all can resonate with, we all can connect with, and also the world can connect with. This is why the piece is so well received everywhere. It's something that everybody can literally relate to.
Yeah. And what's the story, Greg, that each each show that you've done internationally, the story that is received by the audiences? Because there's certainly, I think, what you're sharing in mourning and death and heartbreak, right, and grief with the audiences. But when it's received from an international community, how have they received it? What's the story that they've taken home from it?
I mean, I guess the underlying theme of this piece is grief. and how we confront grief as a collective. So it makes it easier because we already, all of us, somehow, in some time in our lives have experienced grief, or we're going through grief. And so this work allows us to really congregate together and be in a space where we can confront grief and also challenge, the perceptions of that grief has to be in such a dark space. But we're using dance, we're using song to uplift us from that veil, from that dark veil, to allow us to be part of a community that can uplift each other.
Yeah, there's something to be said about, grief happens in such a dark place, and you say, Greg, that, but we use dance and song to tell that story. And I immediately think of how South Africa is one of maybe the only nation in the world where when we're angry, we dance.
Yes.
We toy out of anger, right?
Yes.
It's something to think about. So then when you put the movements and you've got to tell the story through physical movements, Rosaline, what are the things that you're thinking about? And I know Greg will talk to us about the choreography, but in that movement, you've got to be able to show grief in the movement. Sometimes you see, us angry South Africans and you think they don't look very angry.
Yeah,
so talk to me about how movement tells that story.
I was speaking to the cast not so long ago, and I said 2022 for me was the turning point of Cion, where I had lost somebody very close to me, which is my late husband. And I think when I did Cion, that is when I actually felt the peace really.
Really?
Because then I connected much more deeper than what Greg just choreographed on us, what Greg's idea was. But it was no longer an idea for me. It was no longer a piece of choreography, but it became real.
Yeah.
It became me living in the piece. And I think that is when I deeply connected with the piece, and it didn't become something that I had to just portray or do a character, but I lived in the work. And I think everybody, in that sense, then when they lose something really near and dear to them, and it doesn't necessarily need to be death. It can be friendship loss, it can be relationship loss, it can be loss of a job, but something that is near and dear to them, you literally connect deeper to the story, and that was my turning point for the work.
Wow. That is quite the story, and I'm so sorry for your loss. And I can imagine that when you're on the stage, it's palpable for the audience to feel it as well. But Gregory, talk to me about the choreography, and I think there's something to be said as well about contemporary dance and how it's received by South African audiences. There's a sense that, South Africans perhaps aren't cultured enough to do that, but we are that cultured nation, Greg.
Absolutely. And it's a culture that is celebrated worldwide. I don't think we are aware, South Africans, in terms of the impact we have to the world, in terms of our own cultures and traditions and how they have impacted the world. The world is borrowing from us, it's taking from us. And I think it's time that we also become selfish a little bit to keep it for ourselves, so that not everything is exploited by the world. We need to exploit it first in our own ground and be supported as well in doing so. So absolutely, I mean, the choreography takes on the history of Isicathamiya, the movement that comes from the hostels where I was exposed to as a young person, and to watching men who were coming from different parts of Southern Africa just coming together and competing amongst themselves in dance. And that for me was like a revelation, in a sense, that dance is such a powerful tool to connect not just the people but the souls.
Well, I must say, Gregory, you are quite the name in the arts industry, just for being able to take our work and our stories in dance and music as well to the world. And I'm keen to hear about Cion internationally, the countries that you've touched. Just an opportunity for you to show off for us a little bit then.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, it continues to outlive even my own touring as a soloist. It's nearing the turning point, because I've traveled to over 100 cities in the world,
Yeah.
and Cion is catching up very closely to that number. So it's gone extensively to the US. As in fact, the company just returned from the US. They were in Los Angeles and in Williamstown, and it's been to Holland, it's been to Germany, it's been to France. It just continues to travel the world, and in doing so, also picking up awards. It's received the New York City Casey Award for Outstanding Production, also for Outstanding Music Composition. It has received locally the Naledi Awards for Outstanding Production. So it is there. It's a work that continues to tour, and it's starting also to resonate with South Africans, because many people continue to say, when is it coming back again? And people continue to come back into theaters. It's become an iconic piece.
Okay, and because it's been to all these cities, we need to now make sure that we've got the details as to how long we've got it here, right? So give us the dates quickly, Rosaline.
So you can catch it today at 3 p.m. at the Market Theatre, and also at 7 p.m. today at the Market Theatre.
Okay.
And then tomorrow is our last show on Sunday, which is at 3 p.m. at the Market Theatre. I think there's a new saying now: if you have not heard or seen it, please come and join us, otherwise you'll hear about it.
Uh-oh. Yeah, and you don't want to do that.
No, you don't want to hear about it. It's selling out like hotcakes.
Yeah, you don't want to suffer the FOMO.
No.
That's the fear of missing out for some of our older ones that don't know. But I want to, Gregory, also, this is also coinciding with Vuyani Dance Theatre's 25th anniversary. That's incredible. 25 years of dance theatre. Talk to me about that work, because there's obviously the shows, and then there's the individual work of taking young dancers in, developing these dancers. Talk to me about how successful that project is, how it continues, how you continue to take these young artists and make them into stars. Yeah,
I mean, I think you're sitting there in the room with someone who shares a greater part of those years. You know, Rosine has been in the company for 12 years now. She's our most senior dancer, as well as she's a rehearsal director at the company. So she's also assuming responsibility of running the company. So it be up to you, Rosine. But it's the work. It's the work that we're doing. You know, it's about giving opportunities to young people to ensure that they continue also to reach their dreams, and that through us, their dreams can be realized. And that's the pinnacle of the dance theatre in our 25 years. And I must add that tomorrow's show is sold out.
Oh dear.
People have actually today. They've got the 3 o'clock show, they've got the evening 7 o'clock show, as Rosaline has alluded. But the tomorrow show, it's already sold out. It's a good problem to have, but we need to fill that theater today as well. Thank you.
A good problem to have for you, not for the rest of us who want to see the show. I'm going to let you have the final thoughts then, Rosaline. You're the lead dancer in Cion. And, of course, Gregory talking about how the time that you spent with the Vuyani Dance Theatre, having gone through grief as well, as the story of grief is being told here and abroad, to someone who says, okay, why should I rush to get it? What's the one thing you think they'll walk away from if they come?
Relief. I promise you they will feel a lot of relief, and also it taps into emotions that we all don't want to go to. Yeah. And it's a sense of just relief and facing it, because we don't want to face things. We try to hide away, shy away, and sometimes you just need to face it, look at yourself in the mirror and say, I've got this, but I have to go through it for me to have it. Otherwise, it's not going to be like that. So if you really want to get in touch with your inner self, because sometimes people come and they don't know what they're feeling, but it's feelings that you are suppressing. So you want to come tonight, like Greg said, come this afternoon, come tonight, come and watch the show and experience just sheer spiritual relief.
Okay.
Yeah.
You sold it. Well, all the best with the show, guys.
Thank you so much.
Rosaline Wilkins, lead dancer, and Gregory Maqoma, dancer and choreographer. The brains behind Cion, Requiem of Ravel's Boléro, a world based on Zakes novel Ways of Dying. Really quite the story. And as Rosaline says, go and see it for the sense of relief. We take a short break. We're back in a moment.